So for our postural analysis, we're going to start with our client in the lateral view. From this view, we can see that he has like slight low back arches and potential lower cross syndrome. You can see that from the anterior pelvic tilt because his iliac crest is anteriorly tilted. All right, next for the static postural assessment, I'm going to have our client get into a squatted position. So as you can see in the squatted position, he has the low back arches, which leads to me to believe that the lower cross syndrome is there. Potentially overactive muscles would be the hip flexors. You can stand up now. His overactive muscles would be the hip flexors and his erector spinae. His underactive muscles would be his hamstrings and his glute maximus. Next, I'm going to be doing a dynamic view or dynamic assessment with a lateral view of my client walking back and forth. Yeah, go ahead. So in this, my dynamic assessment would be that his hip extension is limited and his shoulders are not flexing when he walks. So you could see that his back and his hip flexors are underactive, or his hip flexors are overactive, his hamstrings are underactive, which explains the decreased hip extension and shoulder flexion. For step one of the corrective exercise continuum, we're going to be doing the inhibitory stage. And for this, we're going to be doing self-myofascial release with a foam roller. So the muscles we're going to be focusing on here is his hip flexors, in particular his rectus femoris. So we're going to have him get in a prone position with the foam roller underneath his quads right here. And this is going to be working on those rectus femoris muscles down there. While he does that, self-myofascial release happens and works on those overactive muscles. For step two, lengthening, we're going to want to start by getting down in a knee. And we're going to work on stretching some of those overactive muscles in the hip flexors. So when you're down in a knee position, you can get down like this and you can bring an arm over. We're going to be working on stretching some of the hip flexors through your thighs. Okay. Right. So when you do this, you're going to want to have an arm over and you're going to want to like bend forward and work on like stretching those out. Also in the step two part of lengthening is neuromuscular stretching. So for this, we're also going to be working on those hip flexors. We're going to start by getting them on their back on a like bench or athletic table. We're going to bring the side that's affected up. We're going to keep this leg down. You can keep your knee like that. We're just going to hold it there. Then we're going to apply force this direction. Work on stretching those out. I think you can feel that like in your hip flexors and stuff. Alright. Step three of the corrective exercise continuum, we're going to be working on activating some of his muscles. The first isolated isolated strengthening exercise we're going to do is for the erector spinae. That's called the floor cobra. And it's kind of like a Superman, but instead of working your abdominal muscles, we're going to be working the back. So we're going to be with your palms up, you're going to flex your back. Go ahead and do that. When you do this, work on getting those arms up even more. Really spread out. You're going to want to work all those muscles throughout the back here. Alright, and you can go back to normal and then go back and do it again. Working that will help those overactive muscles. Also part of step 3 in the activate phase is the positional isometric exercises, and this is going to be for the gluteus maximus. So we're going to start with them and laying down on a table or athletic table, and you're going to start by supporting their hip complex and having their knee up. Then they're going to be moving their hip into extension. That's going to be working their hamstrings, and this is meant to strengthen the hamstrings because they're underactive. So we're just going to be doing that, just applying force down as he fights the resistance. Alright, so for step 4, it's going to be integrating everything together, and for this we're going to be doing a dynamic movement exercise. For that we're going to be doing a squat with an overhead press. So bring the dumbbells up and go into your squat position. Go back up. We're going to be doing this for about 10 to 15 reps, so you can keep going. This works on all his muscles together and working properly, and working on that form of strengthening the hamstrings and having proper use of the erector spinae and hip flexors. Through my assessment, you need to work on strengthening your hamstrings and gluteus maximus because those were your underactive muscles, and we need to continue working on stretching out your overactive muscles, which were your hip flexors, which was that rectus femoris stretch, and your erector spinae, which was that cobra.
Okay.
And working on that will lead to correcting your postural